In today's episode of True Crimes Unfold, we unpack the case of Zhu Ling. Be warned about the deadly dangers of envy and effects of power, privilege, and corruption that go unchecked. Please note that events and scenarios in this video may be graphic for some viewers. Discretion is advised. Details of the videos are taken from actual case files. Before we begin, let us know in the comments where you're listening from and what type of cases you'd like us to cover next, and we'll make sure to add them to our list. Don't forget to subscribe to get new stories as soon as they are released. Settle in, get ready, and let's begin. Zhu Ling was the epitome of brilliance. Born in Beijing in 1973, she grew up in a loving middle-class family that valued education and perseverance. From a young age, Zhu Ling demonstrated exceptional talent and discipline, excelling in her studies and extracurricular activities. By the time she reached university, her intelligence, charisma, and unwavering work ethic had set her apart, earning her a coveted spot at Tsinghua University, often called the Chinese Harvard. For millions of Chinese students, gaining admission to Tsinghua was a dream few could achieve. With an acceptance rate of just 0.4% for local applicants, the competition was fierce, even for the nation's most gifted students. Zhu Ling's place among the elite was a testament to her extraordinary abilities. She stood out not only for her academic achievements, but also for her warm and approachable demeanor. Her classmates often described her as a rare combination of brilliance and humility. In 1994, Zhu Ling entered the prestigious chemistry program at Tsinghua University, where her future seemed limitless. She quickly distinguished herself as one of the top students in her cohort, excelling in rigorous coursework and impressing her professors with her keen intellect and creativity. Beyond academics, Zhu Ling was a natural leader, winning a coveted spot in the student government and earning admiration from peers and faculty alike. Her life at Tsinghua was not all work and no play. Zhu Ling had a love for traditional Chinese music and was a skilled performer on the guqin, an ancient seven-string instrument revered for its intricate melodies and cultural significance. In her spare time, she practiced tirelessly, preparing for competitions and performances. One such performance, a solo with the Beijing Symphony Orchestra, was a defining moment in her life. The evening of her performance was electric. The auditorium at Tsinghua was filled with students, professors, and prominent figures in Beijing's cultural circles. Dressed elegantly, Zhu Ling stepped onto the stage with poise and confidence, bowing to the audience before taking her place at the guqin. The pressure was immense. 6 minutes of flawless execution could define her future. The audience held their breath as she began to play, and the theater filled with the ethereal sound of her music. Zhu Ling's performance was nothing short of mesmerizing. Her hands glided effortlessly over the strings, coaxing out hauntingly beautiful melodies. Her friends, seated near the front, watched with pride, some moved to tears. When the final note resonated through the hall, the audience erupted into applause. Zhu Ling bowed deeply, her face alight with relief and accomplishment. That evening, she proved herself not only a brilliant student, but also a consummate artist. Yet, beneath the surface of her success, Zhu Ling was battling immense stress. The grueling demands of her academic life and her relentless pursuit of excellence had taken a toll on her health. In the days leading up to her performance, she had scarcely eaten or slept, plagued by stomach pains and fatigue. Her friends noticed her pale complexion and hollow eyes, but Zhu Ling dismissed their concerns, attributing her symptoms to pre-performance nerves. That night, instead of joining her peers for celebratory festivities, Zhu Ling returned to her dormitory, seeking rest and recovery. Exhausted, she stepped into the shower, hoping to wash away the stress of the evening. As she lathered her hair, she noticed clumps of it coming loose in her hands. Alarmed, she rinsed quickly and dashed to the mirror, only to find small, irregular bald patches on her scalp. Her heart sank, but she brushed it off as a minor reaction to stress. In the weeks that followed, Zhu Ling's condition worsened. Her hair loss accelerated, leaving her nearly bald. She began experiencing excruciating stomach pains, persistent fatigue, and even temporary blindness. Her once radiant complexion turned ghostly pale, and her lips took on a bluish tint. The vibrant young woman, who had captivated audiences with her music, was now a shadow of her former self. Zhu Ling's classmates were shocked by her rapid decline. Rumors began to spread around campus, speculating about the cause of her illness. Some thought it was due to stress or an autoimmune disorder, while others whispered darker theories. Zhu Ling's close friends urged her to see a doctor, but she insisted it was nothing serious and promised to recover soon. As her symptoms became more severe, Zhu Ling finally sought medical attention. Doctors were baffled by her condition. Blood tests, scans, and physical exams yielded no definitive answers. Her family and friends watched helplessly as her health deteriorated further. She was eventually hospitalized, but even the medical team struggled to provide an accurate diagnosis. By Christmas of 1994, Zhu Ling was a shell of the person she had been just months earlier. Confined to a hospital bed, she could no longer move or speak. Her parents, devastated and desperate for answers, remained by her side day and night, hoping for a miracle. Despite their efforts, Zhu Ling's condition continued to worsen. Unbeknownst to her family and friends, Zhu Ling's suffering was not caused by an illness or genetic disorder. It was the result of something far more sinister, a deliberate act of poisoning. As the mystery deepened, so did the horror of what had been done to her, setting the stage for one of the most shocking cases in China's history. In the months following her sudden and severe decline, Zhu Ling's condition became a horrifying enigma. The promising chemistry student, once vibrant and full of life, was now unrecognizable. Her symptoms escalated with alarming speed, clumps of hair falling out, relentless stomach pain, blurred vision that would lead to temporary blindness, and a pervasive weakness that left her bedridden. What had initially seemed like stress-induced fatigue had morphed into a life-threatening mystery. Zhu Ling's classmates were deeply concerned. Rumors swirled through the halls of Tsinghua University, where her transformation was impossible to ignore. Her once radiant presence had become ghostly. Some speculated that she had contracted a rare illness, while others suggested it was the result of overwork or stress from her rigorous academic schedule. The whispers grew louder when Zhu Ling stopped attending classes altogether, retreating to the confines of her dormitory. Her friends, alarmed by her disappearance from campus life, visited her dorm room to check on her. They found her shivering in bed, clutching her stomach. her pillow strewn with hair. Despite their pleas for her to seek professional help, Zhu Ling remained stubborn, brushing off their concerns. She insisted she just needed rest and would soon recover, but her assurances rang hollow as her condition worsened. By December 1994, Zhu Ling's parents, who had initially believed their daughter was merely overworked, decided to intervene. They took her to a hospital in Beijing, where a team of doctors began investigating her rapidly deteriorating health. Blood tests, imaging scans, and physical exams were conducted, but no clear diagnosis emerged. Doctors were baffled by the constellation of symptoms: severe pain, hair loss, neurological impairments, and skin hypersensitivity. It was as if her body was systematically shutting down, but no one could determine why. Zhu Ling's condition perplexed even seasoned medical professionals. She became a case study in mystery, with doctors exploring possibilities ranging from autoimmune diseases to rare infections. Some even suggested it could be psychological, a reaction to the immense pressure of her academic and personal life. But Zhu Ling's symptoms defied simple explanations, and her condition only worsened. Her parents watched helplessly as their daughter, once a beacon of potential, slipped further away. In January 1995, a breakthrough of sorts came when a doctor recalled a similar case from decades earlier involving thallium poisoning. Thallium, a highly toxic metal once used in rat poisons, was infamous for its ability to cause a wide range of symptoms, including hair loss, neurological damage, and severe pain. The problem was that thallium poisoning was extremely rare, especially in China, where its use had been banned. Moreover, Zhu Ling herself had denied any exposure to thallium in her chemistry studies, and her medical records showed no evidence of contact with hazardous substances. The suggestion of poisoning, however, raised alarm bells for Zhu Ling's parents and friends. They began to wonder if her condition was not the result of illness, but a deliberate act of malice. The possibility that someone had intentionally harmed her was almost too horrifying to contemplate. But it explained the sudden and mysterious onset of her symptoms. Determined to uncover the truth, Zhu Ling's close friend, Bei Jian, took matters into his own hands. Frustrated by the lack of progress from local medical professionals, he turned to the internet, a novel resource at the time. Translating Zhu Ling's symptoms into multiple languages, Bei Jian posted her case on international medical forums, seeking insights from toxicology experts around the world. The response was overwhelming. Within days, Bei Jian received thousands of emails from medical professionals and toxicologists in over a dozen countries. The consensus was chilling. Zhu Ling's symptoms were consistent with advanced thallium poisoning, and the level of neurological and physical damage suggested a deliberate and prolonged exposure. The realization that Zhu Ling had likely been poisoned sent shock waves through her family and friends. But the confirmation of thallium poisoning only deepened the mystery. How had Zhu Ling come into contact with such a rare and dangerous substance? Investigators at Tsinghua University launched an internal inquiry, combing through records of chemicals accessible to students and faculty. Thallium, though banned for general use, was still employed in specialized chemistry experiments. However, access to such substances was strictly controlled, and only a handful of individuals had the opportunity to obtain it. The search for answers took a darker turn when Zhu Ling's parents reported that several of her personal belongings had gone missing from her dorm room. Among the stolen items were her shampoo, contact lens case, and drinking glass. These items, seemingly ordinary, now carried sinister implications. If they had been contaminated with thallium, it meant someone had gone to great lengths to poison Zhu Ling. The investigation soon narrowed its focus. Given the strict access controls at Tsinghua, the pool of potential suspects was small. Among them was a fellow student and Zhu Ling's roommate, a young woman named Sun Wei, known to Zhu Ling and her friends as Sunny. Sunny had been one of Zhu Ling's closest friends when they first arrived at university, but their relationship had soured in recent months. Friends reported tension between the two, with Sunny exhibiting jealousy over Zhu Ling's achievements and popularity. Sunny, also a chemistry student, had access to the department's laboratory and the materials needed to carry out such an act. Moreover, her behavior during Zhu Ling's illness raised suspicions. She had shown little concern and even dismissed Zhu Ling's symptoms as exaggerated. When police questioned Sunny, they were struck by her evasive answers and defensive demeanor. However, Sunny's influential family connections complicated matters. Her relatives held high-ranking positions in academia and government, providing her with a shield of privilege that made a thorough investigation difficult. After hours of interrogation, Sunny was released without charges. She would later leave China, change her name, and start a new life abroad, leaving Zhu Ling's family without closure. Meanwhile, Zhu Ling's condition continued to deteriorate. Although the diagnosis of thallium poisoning was eventually confirmed, it came too late for effective treatment. The antidote, Prussian blue, was administered, but the damage to Zhu Ling's nervous system was irreversible. She was left permanently disabled, with the mental capacity of a child and severe physical impairments. Zhu Ling's family, devastated and furious at the lack of accountability, received a meager compensation from the hospital for its mishandling of her case. The authorities quietly closed the investigation without ever bringing the perpetrator to justice. For Zhu Ling's parents, the knowledge that someone had deliberately destroyed their daughter's life, yet faced no consequences, was a wound that never healed. The mystery of who poisoned Zhu Ling and why remained unsolved, a chilling testament to how ambition, envy, and systemic corruption could converge to destroy a life full of promise. As Zhu Ling's family continued to care for her, they were left with haunting questions and the devastating reality of a life stolen too soon. As the realization of thallium poisoning took hold, Zhu Ling's case shifted from a medical mystery to a criminal investigation. The confirmation of deliberate poisoning meant someone close to Zhu Ling had targeted her with malicious intent, and the search for the perpetrator cast a shadow over Tsinghua University. The question on everyone's mind was chilling. Who would want to harm Zhu Ling? A young woman admired for her talent, intelligence, and kindness. Investigators faced a daunting task. Thallium was not an easily accessible substance, even at Tsinghua, where chemistry experiments involved highly controlled materials. A search through the university's records revealed that only a select group of individuals had access to thallium. This narrowed the field of suspects to a handful of students and professors. However, the theft of Zhu Ling's personal items from her dormitory suggested the perpetrator was someone with close proximity to her, a fellow student. Attention soon turned to Zhu Ling's inner circle, and suspicion fell on one individual, her roommate and former best friend Sun Wei, known as Sunny. At first glance, the idea seemed implausible. Sunny and Zhu Ling had been close friends when they started at Tsinghua, often seen laughing and studying together. However, their friendship had soured in recent months, with tensions escalating to visible animosity. Sunny was no ordinary student. She came from a well-connected family, with influential relatives in academia and government. Her father held a prominent position in the Democratic Revolutionary Committee, and her grandfather had served as a vice chairman in a top state institution. These connections gave Sunny an aura of untouchability, but they also added fuel to rumors about her entitlement and privileged behavior. The fracture in their friendship began subtly, but grew more pronounced as Zhu Ling's achievements outshone Sunny's. Zhu Ling's success, her leadership roles, academic excellence, and standout performance at the Beijing Symphony Orchestra cast a long shadow, and friends noted that Sunny's jealousy became increasingly apparent. Sunny's frustration boiled over during a student election, where Zhu Ling won a coveted position over her. The event marked a turning point in their relationship, with Sunny withdrawing from Zhu Ling and exhibiting hostility. As Zhu Ling's condition worsened, Sunny's behavior raised eyebrows. Unlike Zhu Ling's other friends, who rallied around her and urged her to seek medical help, Sunny appeared indifferent. She avoided visiting Zhu Ling in the hospital and dismissed her symptoms as overblown. Her aloofness seemed strange to those who had once seen the two as inseparable. When investigators interviewed Sunny, her evasive responses only heightened their suspicions. She denied any involvement in Zhu Ling's poisoning, but could not account for her whereabouts during key times or explain the tension in their relationship. Her access to the chemistry lab and proximity to Zhu Ling in the dormitory made her a prime suspect. One of the most damning pieces of evidence was the theft of Zhu Ling's personal items, including her shampoo, contact lens case, and water glass. Investigators theorized that these items had been laced with thallium to ensure prolonged and repeated exposure. The theft suggested premeditation and a deep familiarity with Zhu Ling's routines, knowledge only someone close to her could possess. Sunny, as Zhu Ling's roommate, had both the opportunity and motive. Despite the mounting circumstantial evidence, the investigation into Sunny faced significant roadblocks. Her family's political and academic influence created an atmosphere of caution around her interrogation. After being questioned for several hours, Sunny was released without charges. The lack of concrete proof, coupled with the protective shield of her family's connections, meant that she was never formally accused or prosecuted. The injustice of Sunny's escape from accountability infuriated Zhu Ling's family and friends. To them, the evidence, her jealousy, access to thallium, and suspicious behavior was overwhelming, yet systemic corruption and privilege ensured that the investigation stalled. Shortly after the inquiry, Sunny left China, changed her name, and moved to the United States. There, she started a new life, free from the shadow of suspicion that lingered in Beijing. For Zhu Ling's family, the betrayal cut deeper than the illness itself. The idea that someone Zhu Ling had trusted and shared her life with could commit such a heinous act was almost too much to bear. Her parents, already devastated by their daughter's condition, found themselves grappling with a profound sense of helplessness. The knowledge that the perpetrator might never face justice was a bitter pill to swallow. Zhu Ling's story resonated far beyond the walls of Tsinghua University. It became a symbol of systemic failure, of how ambition, jealousy, and privilege could destroy a life while shielding the guilty. The case sparked outrage in China, with many calling for accountability and transparency. Online forums and news outlets were flooded with discussions about Zhu Ling's plight and the societal issues it highlighted, including the unchecked power of influential families and the vulnerability of ordinary citizens. Meanwhile, Zhu Ling's condition continued to decline. The diagnosis of thallium poisoning had come too late for effective treatment. The antidote, Prussian blue, was administered, but it could not reverse the extensive neurological and physical damage. Zhu Ling was left permanently disabled. Her once brilliant mind reduced to the cognitive capacity of a child. Her body bore the scars of prolonged poisoning, and she required round-the-clock care. For Zhu Ling's parents, the betrayal by someone so close to their daughter was a source of unending grief. They had sent their child to Tsinghua with dreams of a bright future, only to watch her life be stolen by an act of malice. Their pursuit of justice became a personal mission, though it was met with roadblocks at every turn. The authorities quietly closed the investigation, offering no closure or accountability. Despite the lack of resolution, Zhu Ling's family refused to let her story fade into obscurity. They continued to care for her with unwavering devotion, turning their home into a sanctuary where Zhu Ling could live with dignity. Her life, though tragically altered, became a testament to resilience in the face of unimaginable adversity. The betrayal Zhu Ling experienced at the hands of her closest friend remains one of the most haunting aspects of her story. It is a chilling reminder of how envy and ambition can corrupt even the most trusted relationships. For Zhu Ling, the journey from a promising young scholar to a victim of such calculated cruelty is a legacy that continues to echo, sparking conversations about justice, privilege, and the fragility of trust. The confirmation of thallium poisoning came too late to save Zhu Ling from the devastating effects of the toxin. By the time the diagnosis was made, her body had already suffered irreversible damage. The antidote, Prussian blue, was administered, but it could do little more than prevent further poisoning. The neurological damage and nerve degeneration caused by the prolonged exposure left her permanently disabled, confined to a wheelchair, and reliant on her family for round-the-clock care. Zhu Ling's condition was heart-wrenching. Once a brilliant chemistry student with a promising future, she now had the mental capacity of a young child. Her motor functions were severely impaired, her face partially paralyzed, and her ability to communicate almost entirely lost. Her parents, devastated by the transformation of their vibrant daughter, dedicated their lives to her care. They transformed their home into a sanctuary, ensuring Zhu Ling could live with as much dignity and comfort as possible. The systemic failures surrounding Zhu Ling's case extended beyond her diagnosis and treatment. The investigation into her poisoning had been quietly closed, leaving her family without justice or closure. despite the overwhelming circumstantial evidence pointing to Sun Wei as the likely perpetrator. Her influential family connections shielded her from prosecution. Sun Wei's departure from China, along with her name change and new life abroad, underscored the power of privilege in a system unwilling to challenge it. For Zhu Ling's parents, the lack of accountability was a bitter reality to accept. Their grief was compounded by the knowledge that the person responsible for their daughter's suffering might never face consequences. Despite their anger, they chose to focus on Zhu Ling's care, channeling their pain into ensuring her remaining years were as fulfilling as possible. Zhu Ling's story sparked a nationwide conversation in China about privilege, justice, and systemic corruption. Her case exposed the vulnerabilities of ordinary citizens in a system where influence and connections could override the pursuit of justice. Online forums and news outlets erupted with outrage, with many condemning the lack of transparency and accountability in the investigation. Zhu Ling became a symbol of how ambition, jealousy, and corruption could intersect to destroy an innocent life. The public reaction to Zhu Ling's plight was not limited to outrage. It also inspired action. Her case prompted discussions about reforms in China's legal and educational systems, with calls for greater transparency and stricter enforcement of laws against toxic substances like thallium. Activists and journalists used Zhu Ling's story to highlight the need for better protections for students and whistleblowers, as well as the importance of addressing inequality and privilege in institutions of power. Internationally, Zhu Ling's story gained attention through the internet, where her case was shared on forums and social media platforms. It resonated with audiences worldwide as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked envy and systemic failings. Her name became synonymous with resilience in the face of unimaginable adversity, and her story continued to spark debates about justice and morality. In the years following the poisoning, Zhu Ling's parents received only minimal compensation from the hospital for its misdiagnosis and mishandling of her case. The sum, around $14,000, was a paltry acknowledgement of the enormous suffering their family had endured. The lack of meaningful accountability from both the hospital and the authorities left the family with little recourse but to move forward as best they could. Zhu Ling lived for nearly 3 decades after her poisoning, defying the odds stacked against her. Her parents cared for her with unwavering devotion, celebrating small victories and cherishing moments of connection with their daughter. For them, every day with Zhu Ling was a reminder of her strength and the life she could have led. Despite her physical and cognitive limitations, Zhu Ling's presence remained a testament to the enduring love of her family. Zhu Ling passed away at the age of 50, having spent more than half her life in the shadow of the crime that robbed her of her future. Her death marked the end of a long and tragic chapter for her family, who had devoted their lives to her care. Yet, even in death, Zhu Ling's story continued to resonate, serving as a powerful reminder of the fragility of trust, the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition, and the importance of fighting for justice. Her parents, now in their twilight years, expressed gratitude for the time they had with their daughter. Despite the circumstances, they hoped that her story would continue to inspire change and serve as a cautionary tale for future generations. For those who followed her case, Zhu Ling's life was a haunting reminder of how quickly promise and potential could be destroyed by malice and systemic failings. The legacy of Zhu Ling is one of both tragedy and resilience. Her story stands as a stark warning about the dangers of envy and the corrosive effects of privilege and corruption. It also highlights the enduring power of love and the lengths to which a family will go to protect and care for one of their own. While the person responsible for Zhu Ling's suffering may have escaped justice, her story remains an enduring call for accountability, compassion, and the fight against systemic injustice.